this. This deep dive is really about finding the profound truth that's hidden inside every trial, especially those trials that feel final.
And the source promises that understanding the specific, almost surgical nature of Naomi's suffering, it actually changes the framework through which you view your own darkest, emptiest seasons.
So we have to start where her entire world started to crumble.
We do. The scene opens in Bethlehem.
And the name itself is ironic, isn't it? Bethlehem literally means house of bread.
It's deeply ironic, because the narrative immediately establishes this initial desperate decision. A severe famine hits the region of Judah.
The house of bread has no bread.
Precisely. And this lack of provision, it isn't just an inconvenience. It represents a deep crisis of faith and, of course, survival.
Right. And so the family unit, we have Elimelech, who is Naomi's husband, and their 2 sons. They're forced into a radical contingency plan.
A plan born of desperation. They leave the land that was given to them, the covenant land.
And they migrate to Moab. The source material is so clear about this. This move is the critical setup for the tragedy that follows.
It is. They are essentially trading the scarcity of their homeland for the uncertainty and the non-covenant security of a foreign and historically antagonistic land.
We really need to pause here on the weight of that decision. Moving to Moab. This isn't just, moving across the state line for a better job.
Oh, not even close. Moabites were historically opposed to Israel. The relationship was tense, hostile even.
So by fleeing to Moab, the family is attempting to secure their future, their salvation, if you will, outside of their intended place.
Yes. They're looking to a foreign culture with its foreign gods and its foreign customs to provide the stability that their homeland, struck by famine, couldn't.
It's such a human tendency, isn't it, to run towards the most immediate source of provision when your long-term security seems to have completely failed.
It's the most natural thing in the world.
So what does the analysis suggest about the outcome of that choice they made?
The analysis puts it bluntly. It says Moab doesn't save them. Moab breaks them. They find some temporary stability, enough for the sons to marry Moabite women, but that stability is completely illusory, and then the quiet, crushing loss begins.
And the source material draws so much attention to the almost brutal speed and brevity with which the Bible records these devastating events.
It really does.
It doesn't give us these long, drawn-out funeral scenes or chapters dedicated to grief. It's delivered so, simply, quietly, almost too softly.
And first, the patriarch, Elimelech, dies. The text just says, Elimelech died.
Just like that. Naomi loses her husband, her provider, and the entire reason she moved to Moab in the first place.
And then, after about 10 years, a period where you might assume some kind of normalcy had returned, the sons are integrated, they're married, the second, and what the source rightly calls the unthinkable blow, occurs.
Compounding the devastation.
Immensely. And the text is equally brief about this double tragedy. It just says both sons also died.
It's just breathtaking. The narrative compresses a decade of life and really 3 generations of loss into these short, silent sentences.
And that compression, that lack of detail, it mirrors the shock and the sudden vacuum that's left in Naomi's life.
She is now a widow, and she's twice over a widow in terms of her children.
And she's standing in a foreign country, a land that's hostile to her people, surrounded by nothing but the graves of her husband and her sons.
Her isolation is absolute.
Completely. She's separated from her lineage, from her community back in Bethlehem, and from any future prospects. You have to remember, in that era, without male protectors, a woman was left destitute.
So the very security she went to Moab to find has vanished. And it's been replaced by this profound, unmitigated loss.
Which forces a confrontation with reality. This leads to what the source calls the vocabulary of despair, which is, it's the most human and relatable core of the entire story.
Right. When Naomi finally decides to return home, and it's a defeated decision, she doesn't try to mask her grief. She gives it a name, and she gives it a theological dimension.
Yes, she speaks directly to her former community in Bethlehem, to those whispering women. And the analysis emphasizes that she utters words that most people are too afraid to say aloud.
Why? What's so frightening about them?
Because they imply a direct and very painful grievance against the divine.
She doesn't just ask for sympathy. She demands a complete re-identification of who she is. She insists they stop calling her Naomi,
which means pleasant or my delight.
And instead, she declares, do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, which means bitter.
This is an incredible public act of self-assessment and, frankly, of complaint.
And she justifies the name change. She says, "The Almighty has dealt bitterly with me. I went out full, but the Lord has brought me back empty."
And that distinction, full versus empty, that is the raw emotional measure of her perceived failure. It is the language of economic, familial, and spiritual bankruptcy.
She left Bethlehem full, with a husband, with a future, with the means to sustain herself.
And she returns with literally nothing but the weight of her grief and a heart that feels full of graves.
And the source correctly notes that this is the point where, for most human stories, the narrative just ends. The suffering feels final. It feels conclusive.
But this is precisely where the analysis pivots to extract the central truth of the trial. The aha moment here is this counterintuitive realization that sometimes God rebuilds a life only after everything else has been torn away.
And this requires us to perform a kind of counterfactual exercise, doesn't it?
It does.
Help me unpack that. Why is total emptiness required here? Let's just say, hypothetically, Naomi returned with one son. One of the sons had survived. How would that change the trajectory of the story?
Oh, it would change everything. If even one son had survived, Naomi would have returned with a partial future. She would have retained a measure of control, a measure of responsibility.
Her focus would be different.
Completely. She would be immediately preoccupied with arranging his future, securing his marriage, rebuilding their property. Her attention would be fixed on managing the partial resources she still had.
She wouldn't be desperate.
She would be merely struggling. And there is a world of difference between those two states.
And if she were merely struggling, she would still be relying on her own ability to manage those remaining resources.
Precisely. Total loss creates a total vacuum. And that total vacuum forces a reliance on something completely outside of her control for redemption. It forces a complete external provision.
So the total loss eliminates all self-reliance. It eliminates all the previous models of security she had.
And the profound vulnerability she feels is the necessary prerequisite for the unprecedented, unexpected miracle that follows. The emptiness is not arbitrary destruction, it's intentional ground clearing.
And for you, the learner listening to this concept of required emptiness is so critical for understanding organizational and personal resilience.
Absolutely.
Think about it in a professional context. If you're trying to pivot a company or start a new venture or even just catch up in a complex, fast-moving field, there's often a necessary, painful process of unlearning.
Of letting go.
Exactly. Realizing that old assumptions, old protocols, or even old relationships are dead or obsolete, that can feel like a devastating loss. But if you cling to those old, dead models, true innovation can never land.
And Naomi's experience suggests that sometimes the only way to establish a new, fundamentally stronger foundation is to clear the slate entirely, to become, as she said, empty.
And the deeper the emptiness,
the greater the space for something entirely new and unplanned to be built. Her painful return to Bethlehem is not an endpoint. It is the necessary soil preparation for the greatest miracle in her life.
So having made that agonizing declaration of Mara, of bitterness, Naomi decides to return home. She's seeking perhaps only a place of community to die in peace.
That seems to be her mindset. She sets out with her two Moabite daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth.
And Naomi, she understands her own lack of prospects. She's very pragmatic, and she tells these young women to return to their own families.
Which is the logical thing to do. Orpah, logically, decides to return to Moab to the possibility of a normal life.
But this is where the narrative introduces a radical departure from logic. The critical choice of Ruth.
And the analysis rightly focuses exclusively on Ruth's profound act of loyalty, labeling it one of the greatest declarations of loyalty in human history.
And we have to emphasize, she commits this loyalty to a woman who has emphatically declared she has nothing left to offer.
Nothing. Naomi actively tells her there is no hope for marriage, no future, and zero security in following her.
And yet Ruth refuses. She delivers that breathtaking statement, a statement that goes so far beyond mere familial duty. It's an oath. It's a covenant.
He is. She says, where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God.
It's this incredible triple declaration of commitment.
It is a commitment to Naomi's destiny, which is her land, to her culture, her people, and most profoundly to her deity, her God.
She commits to a shared destiny with a woman who is currently defined only by tragedy.
And this act is what frames these open loops for the listener. It raises critical questions that define the revolutionary nature of this story.
First, as you mentioned, why would Ruth sacrifice everything? Her family, her culture. the very real economic possibility of remarrying in Moab for a woman who has nothing.
On a purely rational economic level, Orpah made the correct choice. Ruth's choice is almost, well, it's financially suicidal.
And yet she sees something. What did Ruth see in Naomi that no one else saw? It certainly wasn't prosperity.
No, it had to be something deeper, a commitment to dignity, to integrity, or perhaps the quality of Naomi's faith, even in its bitter complaint. It's a commitment to personhood over provision.
And this leads to the third and most prophetic question the source raises. Why would God use Ruth, a Moabite, a foreigner, someone with zero status and a history of antagonism toward Israel, to rewrite the story of Israel?
And this point cannot be overstated. Deuteronomic law, in fact, specifically forbade Moabites from entering the assembly of the Lord for 10 generations.
Because of their past actions against Israel.
Right. So Ruth is culturally and even legally disqualified from the very project of redemption she is about to initiate.
Which demonstrates that the vehicle for restoration is often found in the places and in the people we least expect.
Always.
So the journey home then becomes this public spectacle.
The stare of Bethlehem, it must have been so intense.
The source material describes the whole community being stirred up when the two women enter the gates of the town. They stare, they whisper, "Is this Naomi?"
And you can hear the shock in that question. They remember the vibrant, full woman who left seeking her fortune, and all they see is the empty shell who returned, accompanied by a Moabite woman of all people.
The town judges the external reality. They see the graves, they hear the bitterness, they see the failed migration.
They see her based on what she lacks. Their assessment is entirely backward-looking.
They are looking at the external perception, the emptiness, and they fail entirely to recognize the divine reality, which is walking quietly right beside her.
Which brings us to the major synthesis of this section, what the source calls the unrecognized blessing. The analysis concludes that Naomi feels empty, crushed, and abandoned.
But God has already planted the seed of restoration right beside her in Ruth.
And this changes everything about how we look for help or opportunity in our own lives. The blessing did not arrive with a flash of light or a pile of gold.
No, it arrived as a quiet, stubborn, economically unviable act of loyalty embodied by a foreigner.
So the core lesson for the listener is profound. The blessing you need may not arrive as a full-grown miracle. It often walks silently.
In the form of quiet loyalty, tenacious friendship, or a small, seemingly insignificant opportunity.
A Ruth you don't recognize because you are so focused on the gaping void of your own perceived failure.
I think this is the key operational insight for the learner. If you are struggling with a complex problem or feeling completely overwhelmed, the solution may already be present.
But disguised.
Disguised as a necessary burden, a demanding team member, or a small, unglamorous detail you've been forced to manage. The question moves from "where is my miracle" to "what quiet blessing have I already dismissed because it looks too small or because it looks like a consequence of my tragedy?"
Exactly. Naomi's total focus on her Mara identity blinded her to the immense, world-changing seed of life standing right next to her. She saw loss. The heavens saw the first mother of the royal line.
So once they're settled back in Bethlehem, the immediate reality is survival. They are destitute, and this forces the next necessary action.
Survival and small opportunities. And it's Ruth demonstrating this incredible initiative and diligence who takes the proactive step that Naomi, defined by her bitterness, couldn't take.
She goes to the barley fields to glean, to gather the leftover grain after the harvesters have passed.
Now, gleaning was a provision for the poor and the foreigner under Mosaic law, so there was a system for it.
Right.
But it was physically demanding, often humiliating, and it could sometimes be dangerous work for a woman alone.
So Ruth is performing a mundane, humbling, survival-driven task.
He is. But the narrative is so careful to introduce the element of destiny precisely in this mundane setting. As Ruth is engaged in this necessary but small daily grind, the narrative builds this suspense. A shadow approaches in the barley fields.
And that shadow belongs to Boaz. The text is immediately deliberate in describing him. He's wealthy, he is respected, and crucially, he is kind.
And the source highlights that he is more than just a rich man. He is a man of profound integrity.
Which matters.
His integrity matters because of his legal role. He is connected to Naomi's deceased husband, to Elimelech's family line. He is a relative.
Which means he possesses the potential legal right and obligation to act as the Goel, the family redeemer.
So the entire future of Naomi and Ruth hinges not just on a man's generosity, but on a man's integrity and his willingness to step into a difficult legal obligation.
But the true miracle, the moment that literary critics, theologians, and our source material all zoom in on, is the unseen miracle of timing.
And is contained in one short clause, a little phrase in the text which says Ruth happened to glean in the field belonging to Boaz.
Happened, such a casual word.
It's a simple, almost throwaway word, but it's the linchpin of the entire restoration story.
And the source material analyzes this moment so profoundly, asserting that this isn't an accident.
Not at all. It is, to use the source's phrasing, a divine setup. Ruth went out simply looking for a field, any field, to survive. And she lands directly in the one field in all of Bethlehem that holds the key to her and Naomi's redemption.
This raises such an important question for anyone trying to navigate life's complexities. If we connect this to the bigger picture, how does that translate for the person who feels they're just acting randomly, just doing the daily work?
Well, Ruth was just trying to find some food.
A mundane, survival-driven task.
And yet, in that small, humble, consistent action, she walked directly onto the stage God had already prepared.
So this is the intersection of human diligence and divine orchestration.
It is. It suggests that God was setting the stage for restoration long before Naomi even left Moab. The harvest date was set. Boaz was positioned in that field on that day.
And Ruth's diligence was the only variable required to trigger the timing.
Exactly. The divine setup wasn't a sudden injection of cash or some external rescue mission. It was the mechanism of timing.
It tells the listener that your consistent, humble, often unrewarding efforts, even when you feel completely empty, are often the very mechanism through which the unseen restoration takes place.
You put in the effort, and the universe provides the field.
It's a truly humbling thought, isn't it? That the most world-changing steps we take often feel like we're just picking up scraps in a field.
We have to trust that diligence, even when it feels mundane, leads us to the right place at the right time.
And that leads directly to the complete narrative pivot, where Boaz steps forward in his official capacity as the role of the Redeemer.
Right. In ancient Israel, this individual, the Goel or kinsman redeemer, had a solemn legal and social obligation. His role was not charity, it was legal restoration.
And the analysis of the legal gravity here needs expansion. What exactly was Boaz redeeming? It wasn't just two women from starvation, was it?
No, it was a complex economic and familial structure that had utterly collapsed.
So what were the pieces?
He was redeeming three things simultaneously. First, he had to redeem the land. Elimelech's property had likely been sold or mortgaged due to the famine and death.
And the Goel had the right and obligation to buy it back.
To buy it back and keep in the family lineage. Second, he had to redeem the name.
The family name.
Yes. By marrying Ruth, he was obliged to raise a son who would carry on the line of Elimelech, thus ensuring that the dead husband and sons of Naomi would not be forgotten.
And the third piece?
He redeemed the person. By taking Ruth as his wife, he gave her and Naomi status, protection, and security.
That's a huge burden to take on. And the source mentions specific legal proceedings, underscoring that this was not some simple romantic gesture, but a full-scale legal, economic, and familial rescue mission.
Absolutely. The source details the public nature of the transaction. Boaz goes before the elders at the city gate.
The ancient equivalent of the courthouse.
Exactly. And the closest relative actually had the first right of redemption.
But he turned it down.
He did. He declined the responsibility because, as he put it, he would endanger his own inheritance.
Wait, hold on. Why would taking on Naomi's property and marrying Ruth endanger his own inheritance? That seems counterintuitive.
Because the entire transaction was costly and risky for him. He had to pay the price out of his own pocket to redeem the land.
Okay.
And then, the first child born to him and Ruth would not be counted as his son for inheritance practices.
Who would the child belong to, legally?
That child would be legally recognized as Elimelech's grandson. This meant the closer relative would have spent his own money to buy the land, only for the land and the lineage to be passed down through the dead man's name.
It was economically irrational.
Totally. The closer relative chooses pragmatism, and in doing so, he confirms the very economic irrationality that Ruth embraced when she chose loyalty over self-interest.
That's a fascinating insight. It highlights that true redemption is often financially or socially risky for the Redeemer.
It is. And finally, you get the legal seal, the official exchange of sandals.
Which was what, exactly?
A public, symbolic act that cemented the transaction. It demonstrated the passing of rights and duties from one man to another.
So it's an undeniable, legally binding, community-witnessed transfer of obligation.
And with that one act, the entire legal and economic vacuum that defined Naomi's emptiness is instantly filled by this single orchestrated act of commitment and law. Boaz doesn't just give them charity. He gives them a name, property, and a future foundation based on legal precedent and his own personal integrity.
So we've moved from the collapse in Moab to the legal restoration in Bethlehem. Now we move from rescue to legacy, from sorrow to undeniable abundance.
And the direct effect of Boaz's redemption is profound. He turns Naomi's emptiness into abundance. The story culminates with the ultimate symbol of life overcoming death. A child is born.
The birth of a child is the ultimate reversal of fortunes here. Naomi had declared herself Mara, bitter, because the covenant line, her entire future, had been cut off by death.
And now, in the very place where she lost her sons, new life springs forth. This child is a statement of resurrection, both for the family and, you could say, for Naomi's soul.
The community, who once gathered to stare and whisper at her, now gathers to celebrate.
And the source highlights a specific and really shocking announcement regarding the child's identity that seals Naomi's restoration.
And we have to focus on the specific phrasing here.
We do. The women of Bethlehem gather around Naomi, they're celebrating the birth, and they declare, "A son has been born to Naomi."
Wait a minute, genetically he's Ruth and Boaz's son.
Of course.
But legally and symbolically, the town declares him to be Naomi's son. Why is that emphasis so important?
It's the official, public reversal of her Mara identity. The legal act of the Redeemer means this child fulfills the duty to the dead. The town is symbolically declaring that the woman who thought her lineage and her story were absolutely finished is now the grandmother of this new life.
Her name, her status, her future all fully restored through this new life.
Proving that her personal tragedy was never meant to be the final word. The town that witnessed her emptiness now officially celebrates her fullness.
And this dramatic local reversal then sets the stage for the massive, sweeping revelation, the doorway to resurrection.
Yes, the personal story of Naomi's suffering is not just a localized narrative. The source material rightly argues that it becomes the necessary starting point for the eventual salvation story of the entire world.
And you can trace the lineage. It's provided right there in the conclusion of the book of Ruth.
You can. Obed, the son born to Naomi through Ruth and Boaz, becomes the father of Jesse.
Who is the father of King David.
The greatest, most enduring king in Israel's history comes directly through the line that originated in Naomi's deepest sorrow and Ruth's radical, economically irrational loyalty.
And considering the geopolitical context we discussed earlier, that Ruth was a Moabite, a woman whose people were historically antagonistic to Israel, the fact that she's the great-grandmother of King David is an astonishing statement.
It is an astonishing statement about where divine power chooses to work.
It is the ultimate statement of inclusion and transformation.
And the lineage doesn't stop at David. The source emphasizes the ultimate conclusion. From David's royal line comes the promised Messiah, Jesus Christ himself.
Which is a profound truth. It means that Naomi's shattered chapter, that painful period of famine, death, and profound emptiness, became, structurally and legally, the doorway to the resurrection story of the entire world.
That is the ultimate aha moment of this entire deep dive. Her personal catastrophe was not merely solved, it was leveraged.
The loss of her family was not just mitigated, it was utilized to produce a universal blessing far beyond anything she could have imagined in her full life before the famine.
The total emptiness proved to be fertile ground.
So if we synthesize the truths hidden in this pain, the source material provides 3 clear knowledge nuggets for the listener who might be seeking wisdom and perspective in their own challenging times.
The first is that profound work is often initiated in moments you feel most abandoned. When your plan has collapsed, when your previous certainties are gone, and you feel entirely disconnected.
That is often precisely when the new, external, unexpected foundation is being laid.
The second, and this is the enduring image we want to leave you with, is that your emptiness is often the soil where God plants his biggest miracles.
The painful removal of old life structures isn't arbitrary destruction.
No. It creates the necessary space for something new, something that requires external, unearned provision to thrive, just as Naomi's total loss required the gift of Ruth and the legal obligation of Boaz.
And finally, the third truth. What you think is the end, the failure, the crushing loss, the empty return, is often the beginning of a redemption bigger than you imagined.
Naomi thought her story ended in bitter self-assessment, but the historical narrative shows that heaven was just turning the page to begin the next globally significant chapter.
We've covered a remarkable journey today, moving from the despair of Naomi's return, marked by that crushing statement Elimelech died, to the ultimate victory proclaimed by the town. A son has been born to Naomi.
The power of specific detail, the difference between the reality of her loss and the eventual reality of her legacy, is what makes this story so compelling and so applicable to us today.
And the contrast between the happened of Ruth gleaning in the field and the divine setup is the key operational insight for any learner navigating complex times.
It is. It means that diligence and faith intersect. You have to take the small, humble step like gleaning, because that small step can lead you directly into the timing that was already set for your future.
You do the mundane work.
And the miracle is finding yourself in the right field.
So if life has taken more from you than you ever expected, if you are walking through a season of profound loss, or if you feel like you are returning home empty from some great professional or personal endeavor, Naomi's story provides a powerful framework.
It's a framework for understanding how restoration often begins, not with a bold plan, but in the shadows of despair, requiring total surrender to the unexpected.
We've spent a lot of time focusing on Naomi feeling empty, and rightly so, because that was her profound, defining experience.
It was.
But the deepest lesson for us, the audience, might be about shifting our perspective to see the Ruths in our lives.
Those loyal, small blessings that walk quietly beside you.
They could be people, dedicated colleagues, or small opportunities that are the actual unrecognized seeds of restoration.
And they are so easily overlooked when we are too focused on our own perceived emptiness and what we lack.
So here's our provocative final thought for you to carry forward, building on the profound paradox of this deep dive. We learned that Naomi was restored because she was empty, but she was only able to be restored because Ruth's loyalty provided the human action necessary to meet the divine timing.
So the question to you is this: what small, quiet loyalties, dedicated team members, overlooked market opportunities, or tenacious friends are walking beside you right now that you haven't yet recognized as your Boaz connection? What essential seed of restoration are you dismissing because it doesn't look like a fully grown immediate miracle?
Take that with you, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.